This podcast is a member of the Place to Be Nation family. Visit us at placetobenation.com, the only place to be in your pop culture world.
Place to Be Nation, welcome back to another rocking episode of Making Mount Rushmore here on the PTB and Pop Experience. I am your host / moderator and panelist for this evening, Steve Riddle. And I say rocking because we are going to be rocking all night tonight because we are going to be talking music, specifically music videos. Unfortunately, even though it is going to be a little bit of a shorter episode because I do only have one other gentleman with me today, but he is a very knowledgeable guy when it comes to music, so I'm very thrilled to have him. He has been on plenty of times before, so you know who he is. It is Mr. Jon Keselica. John, how are you, sir?
Hey, Steve, I'm doing great, thanks. Yeah, really excited to get into music videos. I know we launched a lot of content around it now, and it's great to see this medium getting a lot of attention from our audience and our group of panelists here because there's a lot to talk about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we'll definitely we'll get into that at the end of when we get to the end of the episode. But for the A block here, we're going to discuss music videos from the 1980s. It was a very exciting time for music. MTV, of course, it just started in 1981, and it became a great exposure for a lot of artists to get their songs out there through music video form. And there have been a lot of great videos throughout the 1980s, through all different types of music. So, John, I'm going to let you kick us off here. Give us the first entry on your Mount Rushmore of 1980s music videos.
Sure. My first entry is going to be, thanks to MTV, their award ceremony, the Video Music Awards, which was appointment viewing for me. This was their first winner for Video of the Year, and that's the Cars video for You Might Think. Like I said, first Video of the Year winner from MTV, and I listened to this song. It has such a classic 80s feel, and the video itself just has such a classic 80s look that matches everything. We've got those bright neon colors, a really bright design. Even the model's hair throughout this, which is teased up, is perfect. If you guys don't remember the video, it kind of follows the Cars singer, Rick, as he's popping up everywhere this model goes where she's, pursuing in her life. Leads to a couple of funny visual gags where he's the lipstick, popping up out of her lipstick container. He's, in a periscope in her bathtub trying to follow her. He shows up at like almost a King Kong outside her building to trap her. Just a lot of fun all around the patches that he's really kind of infatuated with this woman, and all he wants, as he says, all I want is you. Real fun visuals with that. One of my favorites that I didn't mention is the band. We're in the bathtub and the band is just playing on a floating bar of soap. So kind of early effects, 80s effects, but also real fun song, real fun video all around. And one of my favorites, and it holds up today. Absolutely. What are your thoughts, Steve?
Yeah, definitely. Like you said, it was the very first video to win the Video Music Award for Video of the Year. So obviously that holds a lot of water. And yeah, just a great, very unique video. One of the first ones to use computer digital effects in it. And, just a very, the Cars are a very unique kind of a group. So you would think that they would, put on a very unique video like this. You also think of a couple of their other ones like Magic later that year. So, yeah, definitely a very, very great pick there. And, yeah, one of the kind of the quintessential songs of that decade from one of the greatest bands of that decade. So I will definitely say that's a great pick there,
Thanks.
John.
With Magic, Matt, you bring up Magic. I remember being blown away by the effect of Rick Ocasek walking on water in the swimming pool in the Magic video, which is a great one too. Yeah, and I learned, Steve, in researching for this, that there was actually a censored version of the You Might Think video. And you think to yourself, like, what could be censored? What would they have to censor from this? And it's from the end. I guess they did a version of it where Rick Ocasek doesn't remove his face and he just sings the lyrics to the camera instead. So there you go.
Yeah, well, I don't think you hear a lot about that censored version, so it goes to show what which version people preferred at that time. All right, well, I'm going to go ahead and give my first entry on my Mount Rushmore of 1980s music videos, and this is an interesting one because you might not think of this more as a music video. You probably think of it more as a short film just for the length of it, but it definitely was a groundbreaking video for its time from one of the most groundbreaking artists of that time, and I am, of course, talking about the iconic Thriller by Michael Jackson. Michael, of course, had really come into his own with the release of the Thriller album. He already had "Beat It" and "Billie Jean," which big songs, but this video really took it to another level because, like I said, it's pretty much a short film as opposed to a music video. You know, you got the little opening scene there with Michael and the girl. Of course, the great visual effects of Michael turning into a werewolf, and then we of course find out that it was all just a film that he himself is watching with his girl. And then, of course, it leads into the song. And then, of course, we get the iconic Vincent Price doing the little narration as the zombies come up out of the ground, which leads into a tremendous dance sequence with Michael and the zombies. And just all around, one of the most iconic videos of all time. Still to this day, especially around Halloween, you know, you're going to watch this video at least once during that time. And still, you know, goes down as one of the greatest. In fact, the Library of Congress had named it one of the most famous videos of all time, and it was included into the National Film Registry in 2009. So it just goes to show the cultural influence that video had on music, and what the great influence that Michael had as an artist. So, John, do you have anything to include about Thriller?
Yeah, Thriller stands on its own category, really, doesn't it? And you pointed out that it feels like a short film, and it does. And that's one of those traits we get when we get, you know, a Hollywood director in who does make actual films to make a music video. And using John Landis here, he's doing his best, some of his best work. The visual effects you talked about terrified me as a kid. I probably couldn't watch those opening scenes of him turning into the werewolf. I would turn it off and come back when we got to the song often because they did such a good job. You compare this with the effects that we saw in the Cars video, were night and day. I think every kid growing up probably also had a spooky house in their neighborhood that they could swear was the house they used for Thriller, because I know I did, and I know other friends who were like, no, they shot Thriller here. Great song, an iconic video, really kind of let us see what videos could be, you know, not just a performance of a song for an artist, but a full cinematic experience. And Michael put his all into it, the director, the cast, everybody. It's it's a terrific pick, and I mean, almost should be immune from Mount Rushmore because it stands on its own, right?
Yeah, and I mean, we'll see, and we would see over the years that Michael almost tried to kind of reduplicate that success with a few other songs, and while they were, you know, fine on their own, definitely I don't think up to the same level of Thriller. So, like you said, stands on its own, and for good reason. It deserves it. So, okay, why don't you go ahead and give us the next entry on your Mount Rushmore of 80s videos?
Sure. So I mentioned that a lot of videos in the 80s really were kind of just the bands performing to empty arenas or just performing the song on a sound stage. And those could be boring or those could be energetic. And no band, I think, really played to an empty room with more energy, more personality than Poison. And for that reason, I choose Poison's Nothing But a Good Time. Nothing But a Good Time came out around the time when Welcome to the Jungle was out, Pour Some Sugar on Me. I remember watching the countdowns every day, and those two were always number 1 and 2. Nothing But a Good Time could never quite get over the top. Probably because it's Poison, and they're not always thought of in the same kind of tax bracket with those other bands. But you look at them just having a great time through this. Bret Michaels running the stage. Ricky Rocket on his personalized drum kit, doing some stand up with it, but also, you know, rocking out. The framing device for the video is another one of those classic 80s tropes, and something that we always saw with the young man working in the kitchen, slaving on a Saturday night, listening to his radio, just washing dishes. And we get that angry boss comes in, representing our adult figure comes in, and of course he's yelling at him, saying, you're going to get nowhere with that rock and roll. So we have just his stereotypical character, almost cartoonish, that now he wants to escape, and the DJ says, "You want to escape this? Let's listen to Poison," and it opens up to the beautiful performance. And even though they're playing to nobody, like I said, Poison on an empty soundstage acts like they're playing in front of 100,000 people. It's just they're running around the stage, filling it with color, with energy. And lastly, one of my favorite things about this video is just CeCe's guitars. If you watch it, CeCe has something like 10, 11, I think 13 different guitars that he uses throughout it. So they needed to keep cycling them in and out. In fact, I do remember this again growing up, that MTV had a contest during those countdowns, which was like, can you count how many guitars CeCe uses in this video? And trying to do that, recording the video and doing it back myself. So I'm sorry that I don't recall exactly what it is, but give it a look, see if you can't count the number of guitars CeCe uses.
Yeah, again, a very good choice here. Like I said, this is right at the kind of the height of the hair bands, and we had a whole bunch, Poison, Motley Crue, Def Leppard, Bon Jovi, just so many out there trying to stake their claim. And I think this was a really good song for Poison, because it kind of it built off of Talk Dirty to Me previously, and then of course they would, to a lot of people, peak in a bit with Every Rose Has its Thorn after this. But they're just really in a time where a lot of those bands all definitely look similar with the big hair and all that other stuff going. Poison really separated themselves out from those other bands, and really showed off a lot of good energy. And like you said, when you're basically playing to an audience of nobody in a video, it's kind of hard. It's a little harder to exude that, but they definitely do a great job with it. So good pick there. Good pick.
Yeah, for wrestling fans, this is basically Poison playing to the Thunderdome and still making it like they're playing in front of Madison Square Garden, right?
That's good. Well, that won't be the last wrestling connection that will be mentioned here with these videos. So I'm going to go ahead and give my next entry, and this is another video where we talk about how technology really influenced these videos and made an major impact with something that not a lot of people have seen before. And that's, of course, I'm talking about Take On Me by a-ha. Obviously, one of the proverbial one-hit wonders of the 1980s by this band. And apparently there were actually two videos made of this for the song. The first one was basically just was the band singing behind a blue background. But then, of course, the second video is the one that everybody remembers, which has the animation in it, and the lead singer, going, trying to get with this girl, and all the pencil drawings, and just really very innovative and influential for the time. Kind of building off of what we had seen with the Cars, with You Might Think from the year prior, and this again also was another very successful video. It won several awards in the 1986 VMAs. Did not win Video of the Year, surprisingly enough, but it did win a bunch of other videos, including Best Concept and Most Experimental and Special Effects. So definitely one of the most groundbreaking videos for that time frame. And even though this would be the peak of a-ha, they wouldn't have another real major success. I mean, they had a couple of other singles, but nothing that would top this one. It still has to go down in history as one of the greatest music videos, not just of the 1980s, but of all time, just for its influence and the innovation that we saw through it. So, John, do you have anything to include about Take On Me?
Yeah, probably one of those first instances where we saw that a video can help make a band or help make a single successful. how many people were rushing out to buy Take On Me, how many people were listening to it on the radio. If we don't have the video accompanying it, that people are like, did you see this? Did you check that out? Like, you got to watch it. And it gets the song in your head that way. So really kind of a testament to the power of music video with this. And to top that, it's a great video and a great song. So kudos to a-ha all around. I love the animation here. They didn't, go with just like some stop motion, real kind of hackneyed. It's very smooth. The way it cuts and is able to interact with the live action is wonderful. Doesn't feel like any corners were cut in making it. And, a thrilling adventure. It's not just, hey, animated for the sake of animated, but we actually have a chase going on as well and a story behind it. So, yeah, they definitely made a good decision going with this instead of singing in front of a blue screen, I guess.
Yeah, do you want to be generic like everything else, or do you want to be innovative? So they definitely made the right call with being innovative. So kudos to them. They did get a big hit out of it, and were the talk of the town for quite a while there. So kudos to them. All right, well, John, why don't you go ahead and give us the next entry on your Mount Rushmore of 80s music videos?
Yeah, so obviously, visual storytelling is a huge part of music videos, and one artist who treasured that and recognized that early on in the 80s is Tom Petty. And Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers had a killer video with Don't Come Around Here No More. Now, time growing up, I wasn't very familiar with Tom Petty's music, had no idea of any really of his songs or anything, but I would watch this take on Alice in Wonderland with, things getting bigger and smaller, whether it's the hat or the clothes or floating in a giant cup of tea. And it was fascinating to me. It just looked so cool, made me want to, hear the song more, maybe want to, get into the band even. You look at this and you can tell that the band and Tom Petty himself had just a great time making this, I'm sure. Putting on the oversized costumes, playing like the Cheshire Cat, as we see smoking the hookah, the girls dressed in all the black and white, miming along with the song. It's visual gags galore. It's a very sparse set for what it is, even though it has those effects. They're very simple. It's just a bigger costume, a smaller costume, a bigger set piece, a smaller set piece. And then it has just a money shot visual at the end as Alice, wakes up to realize that she's, the centerpiece of the Mad Hatter's Tea Party. She's actually the cake, and Tom and the other members of the band are taking slices out of her. I thought Thriller freaked me out when I was watching that. This freaked me out just as much because it looks close enough, and to a younger eye, I guess, maybe, it looks close enough to being absolutely what's happening and true to life that you're like, I can't believe they're slicing this girl open as a piece of cake and eating her. But a great video. Another one that just holds up and is worth revisiting. Check out Tom Petty's Don't Come Around Here No More.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's again very interesting because I think what you find with a lot of these videos, particularly in the 80s, that the concept behind them doesn't seem like it matches up with the actual song itself. And it's doing the whole the theming of Alice in Wonderland, and having Tom Petty as the Mad Hatter, and like you said, that closing scene at the end with where Alice wakes up and she becomes the cake that's being eaten. It's just such a bizarre and weirdo scene. It's almost feel like you felt like you've been tripping on acid watching this video, but that was just the beauty of the 80s. Is like with a lot of these videos, they just they put out all these great visuals and made you remember the video, even if the song didn't seem like it was didn't fit the video. But again, that's just the magic of it. So again, great pick, and kudos to Tom Petty. God rest his soul. One of the great ones that we lost way too early. So great choice there, John. All right, well, I'm going to go ahead and give my next entry on my Mount Rushmore. And again, we talk about these really weird videos, and just how iconic they were for that time with their graphics and just everything that surrounded them. And I think this the one I have here is another one that's kind of used those early era computer animation to make an impact. And I am, of course, referring to "Money for Nothing" by Dire Straits. Again, just such a very, very memorable video with the computer animation, and you got these two guys here just kind of like doing their thing with moving, and you got interspersed with all the background with the band performing and all these different these other scenes going on here, and it's just such a really fun video. And Dire Straits at that time was definitely at their peak in terms of a band. They had just they had already had a big hit with Sultans of Swing and a bunch of other ones, and obviously having Sting kind of be in the background there with the whole I Want My MTV, and it was definitely a also big for, like I said, for MTV, because it gave because them basically became almost like an advertisement for MTV, which was starting to get on a lot more cable channels at that time frame. So I think when you think about very unique videos of the 1980s, we've talked about a bunch of them, but I also think that "Money for Nothing" has to be included on here. And I mentioned that that "Take On Me" did not win Video of the Year in '86, and the reason is because this was the video that actually won Video of the Year. So you can go back and forth on the two, which one deserved it more. I think you'd be splitting hairs there because they're both very memorable videos by two very memorable bands, and you can't really go wrong with either one, in my opinion. So John, do you have anything to include about "Money or Nothing"?
Yeah, "Money for Nothing," just real affirmation of the whole concept of MTV, isn't it? With the "I Want My MTV" built into the video. MTV, like you said, incorporated that as a logo or as a slogan for them, shooting their, demanding that, telling people to call your cable companies and say, "I want my MTV," so you get it added. Really helped in the boom of it. And the video even kind of has that self-referential, playing a bit of MTV, a clip of another video in the middle of it. Really, really groundbreaking stuff, even with the animation at the time, which looks primitive at this point. But no, when we were looking at it now, we have cartoon characters who are lip syncing along to words for the song and who are moving in rhythm to it. Really a top shelf video, and deserving of that title of Video of the Year. Although I think some of our Danish audience may argue in favor of Aha as well. So,
well, like I said, I don't think you can go wrong with either one. So, either way, you win out at the end. All right. Well, you've got one entry left on your Mount Rushmore, so why don't you let us know what it is?
Yeah, so I picked one. This it's just on the brink. So it's 1989. Similar to how we can say like Goodfellas was the greatest movie of the 80s, I think, because it came out in '89. I went with one that came out really stretching it, and that's Metallica's One. Metallica, obviously in the '90s, built more of a reputation on their videos and their use of the medium to accompany their songs with things like Unforgiven, Enter Sandman. But to me, this first video, one of the earlier videos of One, is a brilliant piece. It's more than 8 minutes long, but it takes performance of the band and intercuts it with scenes from Johnny Got His Gun, the film version of Johnny Got His Gun, based on a Dalton Trumbo book, which is obviously the story of a young man in World War I who has his arms and legs lost in the war, and he's just living as basically a stump with no face either. James Hetfield wrote the song inspired by reading the book, I remember, and so that's where it comes from. Really, really creepy overall video, and dark even in the performances. The performance scenes with Metallica are this black and white that's almost blue in tint as well, really sparse, but intercut with those scenes of the film which are just creepy as Johnny's begging in his head for them to kill him, typing on Morse code SOS, and thinking about all of these tragedies that have befallen him. I don't think this one really ran during the day, during their prime time on MTV. I think it was more reserved for their late night showings. But really stretching the boundaries and pushing us on what a music video can be and how we can actually incorporate other media into it. So Metallica's One really sticks out for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it definitely, kind of big chance for them, because this was actually their first song that they made into a music video. They had a couple of big hits in the 80s that they never made, they didn't make a video to, and then of course, as we'll see as we get into the 90s, that's when they really kind of take over with Enter Sandman, Nothing Else Matters, Wherever I May Roam, et cetera, et cetera. But this kind of definitely, like you said, set the template for them. The grainy black and white, and just the shots of them performing interspliced with the scenes from that film, and just such a intense video, which is pretty much what you will expect out of any Metallica song. Just a bunch of intensity. James Hetfield with his great vocals, and the riffing of the guitars, and Lars Ulrich on the drums, and just an overall great package put together in terms of a rock band. You'll not get any better with Metallica with that. So great pick there, John, to close out your Mount Rushmore. And now I'm going to close out my Mount Rushmore with another very unique song and unique video from the 80s. Just in terms of just bizarreness, kind of the similar vein of Don't Come Around Here No More. We have, of course, one of what's quickly became one of my favorite songs of that era, and that's, of course, Land of Confusion by Genesis. Just this 4-minute video of just all these puppets, just so bizarre, so creepy, and it's all this is all in like the head of Ronald Reagan, and we get all these different celebrity cameos, and obviously the band themselves as these puppets. And apparently Phil Collins had mentioned that he had seen a caricature puppet of himself on the show Splitting Image, and that's how he came up with the idea for the video. And just such a very interesting video, very unique. Just seeing nothing but puppets on the screen, and seeing all these different celebrities, big names at that time, satirized here with these puppets. Not just celebrities, but you even had like really world leaders, evil world leaders at the for that time. Khomeini, Gorbachev, Gaddafi. I mentioned Reagan. Just such a very interesting video, and and the song itself is actually really good too. So you have a really good song coupled with this just absolute insanity of a music video, and you got one of the one that's going to define that becomes one of the defining videos of that era. John, do you have anything to include about Land of Confusion?
It's just a snapshot of 1980s politics and even pop culture in here. Really, really brilliant. How can you not have Reagan if you're thinking 80s, or Reagan pretending he's Superman? Even we get the great puppet of Madonna and take a shot at her with her belly button actually doing some of the singing in a weird scene later on. But yeah, brilliant stuff all around. One that's I'm glad Genesis and Phil Collins decided that they wanted to use these puppets to do something and kind of make a statement utilizing them. So the most political out of any of our picks here, definitely. But one that is a great option, great choice, Steve.
Yep. All right, that will conclude both of our lists, but now let's go through here our honorable mentions. So, John, why don't you go ahead and give us one of your honorable mentions?
Yeah, first I had would be, you had Michael Jackson's Thriller, which obviously is probably his best, but Beat It is another that just a brilliant video. Michael Jackson in that shirt with the keys on it, red jacket, just iconic as all hell, and then finally the dancing knife fight really kind of pull it all together. Really, really nicely done. West Side Story meets MTV in the best way possible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely agree, and I mean that. And I think Billie Jean was his first video that he put out there, or at least on MTV. But yeah, Beat It definitely kind of brought forth kind of helped kick down the door. And of course, coupled with the awesome guitar riffs of Eddie Van Halen, definitely a great video there and a great selection. So one of my so I actually had another Michael Jackson video in my honorable mentions, and I thought about which one I wanted to go with because he's had a lot of great ones throughout that decade. But I went with one that's another very just kind of crazy to look at video, and that's "Leave Me Alone." Obviously this came out around the time when he had was really getting kind of hounded by the tabloids and the press with all those weird stories about him, and this was basically kind of like his pushback song on them. And you got the video, which is basically just like him flying through this like weird amusement park, kind of centered around his whole life and his career, and coupled with all those tabloids, those articles about him. Just a very unique video. And what's really weird about it is that this song came out in '89, as did the video, when all that was going. But the really heavy-handed stuff with the tabloids and all that stuff with him really didn't kick off until later, until the '90s. So, kind of interesting that this song came out when it did and the video came out when it did. But I thought it definitely deserved a mention just for being one of the most kind of unique and very interesting videos at that time. Do you agree with me, John?
Absolutely. Yeah, he got a lot of mileage out of that bad record. He released videos into the 90s, it feels like, from that. And Leave Me Alone, yeah, the video, terrific foreshadowing. I mean, I don't know if we need to say terrific, but definite foreshadowing of the things he would face with tabloid rumors about Michael Jackson in the future. And probably the only option we have here, which would feature the artist dancing with the bones of the Elephant Man, as it does in Leave Me Alone. So, fun video.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. So I know you had, I did mention this earlier, but you did have Take On Me as one of your honorable mentions, because we already talked about it. So I'll just talk about another one I have here. It's another very kind of interesting video for the time, and that's It's My Life by Talk Talk. Basically, it's just these intersplicing shots at this of all these different animals in their habitat and in the zoo, and you couple that with the lead singer of the band, with Mark Hollis, just kind of standing there in a trench coat, almost like with his mouth almost like sewed shut, almost like you can't really see his lips at all, which is really, really weird. Occasionally, you got the censor bar in front of it, and it's just, it's really just, focusing on him singing and the music, especially the bass line, which is such great stuff. And apparently there was a second version that was that they made of this because I guess the record company wanted them to do a video of them performing, so they did another video which is basically the same video, but then them playing like behind it, like in front of a green screen, and they're just like very overly exaggerating with their mannerisms and their lip syncing. It's basically that's the equivalent of to go back to the wrestling reference, basically of Shawn and Hogan from SummerSlam 05, where Shawn's like overselling everything in that match. It's basically these guys overselling and over exaggerating all their mannerisms in that second video. But when you think about another very great video of the 80s, just with all the imagery and the song behind it, It's My Life definitely belongs up there. Do you agree?
Yeah, it's one of the reasons I love doing these Mount Rushmores or listening to them, is because something like this will have completely slipped my mind and you guys jog my memory with it. But you're absolutely right. I'm glad to think about this video again. It's My Life, and definitely is one I'll go back and watch. I think I didn't know the story about the second video. That's awesome. I think we could talk about other, you think about artists who didn't want to make videos, but labels would make them, and their kind of protests against them throughout time. And that's a great example of one. Cool stories, dude.
Yeah, I didn't know about that either until I think it was in I was reading up. I think I may have seen it like one of the YouTube comments when I was watching the original video, and it said something about it. So I looked it up. It's like, yeah, it's like so so deliberately going over the top with everything. It's really funny. So definitely check it out here. All right. Do you have? Let's talk about if you have another honorable mention. Go ahead and let us know what it is.
Sure. Might as well. Yeah, I'll leave you with one more. I mean, we've got 1980s and music videos. We'd be remiss if we didn't have any Madonna on here, another artist who was just tailor-made for music video era and really embraced it. Material Girl is the one that stands out. But for me, I always loved Like a Prayer. One, I like the song better, but also I think just there's a narrative to the video, there's a great performance scene in it, and then there's just controversy around of we've got Madonna dancing or singing in front of burning crosses in a fairly skimpy dress. Obviously, it led to Pepsi kind of backing out on using her for their commercial programming, where they were sponsoring the premiere of the music video. They didn't really like being associated with that, so quickly rescinded that partnership. But Like a Prayer, great video. Madonna with an awesome performance in it, finding God or her like Black Jesus here, and then at the end dancing with the church, performing. Great video all around. One of the memorable ones from another late 80s selection.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. And I mean, when you're getting protested by the Vatican for your video, you're onto something there. And yeah, I mean, she was the queen of the 80s, Madonna. So, I mean, you have to include her at some point. And I think Like a Prayer is a good one, a very good one. And I actually did have her as well, but I actually went with the song that obviously put her on the map, and that's of course Like a Virgin. You got those scenes, the iconic scenes of her kind of on the waterfront there as she's just kind of showing off her stuff, and she's on the gondola, and of course when you think Like a Virgin, you think of her iconic performance at the MTV Video Music Awards in that wedding dress, and just such great such great stuff there. She was, like I said, she was the queen of that era, and she definitely deserves to be recognized for her great music videos. I think, and we said two of them, Like a Prayer and Like a Virgin. Another person that really hit it big in the 80s, I'll mention here, another honorable mention of mine is, of course, Peter Gabriel, coming off of his run with Genesis. He had a great solo career, and one of the videos I included on my honorable mentions for his was Big Time. It's another one of those very kooky, crazy videos with all this like amazing imagery throughout the course of it as he's singing. And again, we get to the wrestling connection. I mean, this was the theme song for WrestleMania 22, which on the paper doesn't seem like it would be a good fit, but they made it a really good fit. And when you think about great theme songs for WrestleMania, that's usually one, a lot of people think about. And Peter Gabriel definitely hit it big in the 80s with this song and with other songs, which I think, John, you have one of his other songs as honorable mention as well.
Yeah, Big Time. Like you said, that wrestling connection. I remember when, I guess it was WrestleMania 22. I was shaking my head watching Raw and SmackDown back then, thinking, who's in the department now? Like, because we're coming in the age where they're using all the new metal themes. They're using a lot of Disturbed, Drowning Pool, and Limp Bizkit, WWF's favorite band, as they announced. But all of a sudden, we're using Peter Gabriel. Like somebody was off that week, and they had somebody filling in because it seemed they snuck that one past. And I'm glad they did, because it really fits. Big Time's a fun video. Kind of a perfect follow to what I had, which was Sledgehammer, another Video of the Year winner. Full of effects and animation. We go from his face being made of fruit to him kind of walking in the stop motion phrase, that ending scene of him in the dark awakening with just light bulbs all over him. A visual treat all around, and both great songs. And Peter Gabriel, another artist who really understood music videos and wanted to make each video he makes, something bigger than what it could be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely agree. Good choice, and a great choice there with Sledgehammer. Definitely, like you said, it kind of was the predecessor for Big Time, and that was actually the, like you said, one best video. And actually, that was the one that beat Land of Confusion. So kind of ironic that he ends up he won over his former band. So, but yeah, definitely great video there. And then I did have two more I wanted to talk about, because as we know, the 1980s was full of great one-hit wonders, and a lot of the videos, even though they were one-hit wonders, were still very memorable. You think about a song like "Whip It" by Devo, which on the paper doesn't seem like much, but then you watch the video of these guys, you got this like Western theme, and they're there and performing, and you got the lead singer basically using a whip to basically strip this girl of her clothes, very risque and very insane for that time period. It just was it's such a damn catchy song that it's like once you hear it, it's stuck in your head for a while. And kind of a similar vein, Mickey by Tony Basil, which is probably one of the most basic videos that either of us have talked about here. It's basically just her and a bunch of cheerleaders performing, but again, just one of those songs that once you hear it, you get it stuck in your head. And this was before cheerleading really kind of blew up as it would in the late 90s and the early 2000s. So, she was almost kind of ahead of the ball here when it came to kind of making cheerleading almost like a legitimate sport. So I thought that those two also kind of deserved a little bit of recognition. Did you have anything you want to include about Whip It or Mickey?
Yeah, I mean, to your point about one-hit wonders, and these are two great choices, and the videos really help them in their success. I think the 80s show brought about even more one-hit wonders as a result of music video, almost. Like, we remember songs not just from the single, but also we learned about them from the music video. So kind of gave us those Dexy's Midnight Runners, those Tony Basils, those Jay Giles bands. And I was looking back on videos, I think coming to pick these, Steve, and pick the full videos I wanted, I felt like there were a lot of times where I could just think of the 80s videos specifically for like shots or moments from them. I mentioned Jay Giles band. I remember the drum that has milk on it and being hit on the snare drum in the last drum fill for Centerfold. Or, Tony Basil in the pyramid with her cheerleaders. There were a lot of like single moments from videos in the 80s. It was really a golden age for it.
Mm-hmm. It definitely was, and we've talked a lot of great videos here from the 1980s, but as we know, it wasn't the only decade that had a lot of great videos, because at this moment we are going to go ahead and take a quick break, and when we come back, we are going to jump ahead a bit as we trade in our big hair and the big shoulder pads for some ripped flannel shirts and some torn jeans as we hit another important decade of music. This is, of course, making Matt Rushmore here on the PTB and Pop Experience, and we will be back in just a minute. And we are back here on Making Matt Rushmore here on the PTB and Pop Experience. I am Steve Riddle alongside Jon Keselica. We are discussing music videos today. We are in the first half. We discussed a lot of great videos from the 1980s. And now for this half, we're going to discuss another very great decade of music, and that is, of course, the 1990s. A lot of great music throughout this decade, a lot of diverse music throughout this decade. And to kind of put that into notion, I'm going to kick off my Matt Rushmore here with arguably one of the most quintessential videos of the 1990s by one of the most quintessential bands of the 1990s. I had, of course, mentioned the little joke there going at the end about how we were training the big hair and the shoulder pads for the flannel shirt and the torn pants, because, as we know, in the early 90s, the grunge movement had started, and at the forefront of that movement was, of course, the band Nirvana and their smash hit "Smells Like Teen Spirit." Obviously, this came out. They had gotten their start in the late '80s, but really kind of came into their own during this decade. And this song became an anthem for a kind of new generation of kids looking for something different in their music. And of course, the music video itself, very stripped down. But very heavy. You got Nirvana basically performing in this gymnasium in front of all of these Gen Xers that eventually kind of turns into a mosh pit. Of course, the what I think is the kind of the quintessential, the main thing of that one is the janitor rocking out periodically throughout the video. But it really just was a great showcase of Kurt Cobain's singing ability and his guitar player. Obviously, Dave Grohl before he hit it big with the Foo Fighters, obviously was the drummer. Just such a very great video for a great song, and again, like I said, it definitely paved the way for a lot of other bands coming out from that same ilk. With your Alice in Chains and your Pearl Jams and that sort of thing. And when you think back to the 1990s, this definitely is one of the first videos you think of. In fact, a couple of years ago here at Place to Be Nation, we did a tournament to determine the greatest song of the 90s, and this was the song that ended up winning, and very well deserved because it was a culture-changing song for that time, and it was also a great video kind of for that time frame as well. So, John, do you have anything to include about Smells Like Teen Spirit?
Yeah, just a game-changing video and song here of transitioning, saying goodbye to that 1980s and the start of the 90s decade in earnest. Really was with Smells Like Teen Spirit, and the videos an introduction to that, to this kind of counterculture, more subversive style of music. It's aggressive. It's not playing to the audience like Poison and Bon Jovi were in some of our videos that we talked about in the 80s. There's an anger to it that we see builds up over the video to the point where our cheerleaders, who are very kind of mellow at the beginning, are all of a sudden wearing anarchy symbols and grinding at the end. Real great mood, against, like you said, sparse sets, but captures the vibe of the song just perfectly. And this welcome to, all right, things are going to be different musically, things are going to be different culturally for us here. And Nirvana are some of the people who are going to be our guides into that. So great pick. And a good Weird Al parody. So we haven't even talked about Weird Al at all in this yet. Here's one of his better parodies of a music video was his Nirvana parody.
Oh, definitely. I mean, we go back to the 80s. I mean, how many of those songs were so memorable that they got parodies themselves? So, I mean, you always know that you have a great song if Weird Al wants to parody it. So, definitely. So, all right. Well, why don't you go ahead and give us your first entry on your Mount Rushmore of 90s music videos?
Yeah, I'll kind of piggyback off you because you brought us Nirvana, and obviously a spin-off of that band. Dave Grohl started his own group afterwards with the Foo Fighters, and perhaps their best video to me still is Everlong, which came out in the late 90s. I want to say 97. Everlong, really their first foray into more artistic videos. And Michel Gondry, who's the director of this, has a whole roster of great videos to his credit. And this is one that really, really sticks out for me. The way it plays with dreams throughout is wonderful. It tells the story of Dave Grohl, the lead singer, and the drummer, Taylor Hawkins, escaping into their dreams and even kind of coming to rescue each other through them. There's a lot of great practical effects throughout. I think my favorite scene is when Dave Grohl's carrying a series of logs, and when he sees the fight breaking out, they turn into nunchucks for him. At the end, Taylor Hawkins, who's lying in bed, sits up and the sheets come off, revealing a drum set that he's sitting at, and the band starts rocking out. Overall, just a classic video and really an introduction into some of the themes that the director Gondry would play with and artistic styles that he would introduce in the future. So homages to not Cabin in the Woods, but Evil Dead 2, homages to those classic films, to punk of the 70s with some of the hairstyles on the characters. and a terrific video all around, and a song, of course, to match it. So Everlong with the Foo Fighters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. I mean, the Foo Fighters have really put out some fun music videos throughout the years. There'll be some more coming up after this, but yeah, when you think about some of the greatest hits, I know a lot of people put this one as one of, if not the best hit they've ever had, and it really kind of a good testament to Dave Grohl that after Kurt Cobain had tragically taken his own life, and when he did, that he was able to kind of have a second career here with the Foo Fighters, and yeah, just very, like you said, another just kind of very unique video with the references to Evil Dead and all that sort of thing. So definitely a really good choice, and I think we ask a lot of people, like I said, for their favorite Foo Fighters song, this is definitely going to be near the top of a lot of people's list in that. So definitely a good choice. Definitely a good choice. All right, well, I'm going to go ahead and give my next entry, and kind of sticking with kind of this early 90s era, is a band that had a couple big hits in the 80s, and you thought almost, kind of wondered if they still had any juice left, but I think when REM came out with Losing My Religion, they definitely showed that they still had plenty of juice left at that time. Because like I said, in the 80s, they had a couple of big hits there, including obviously It's the End of the World as We Know It, and a couple of other ones. But this song really set the tone for what their 90s would be, because instead of having the hard, the electric guitar, they instead wrote the song off of a mandolin, which was a very kind of not the usual instrument that you'll hear played with a rock band. And then obviously the video itself, very unique with all the religious iconography throughout it, and one of those again kind of memorable videos you remember from the 90s, and kind of one of the last times that the lead singer Michael Stipe had hair before he cut it all off. So definitely a great video, one of the best songs of the 90s, and definitely again, like I said, kind of it showed a lot of people that if they thought REM had run out of juice after the 80s, that in fact they still had plenty left to give here. So John, do you have anything to include about Losing My Religion?
Great video. One of my memories of this video, not just of the song, I remember watching the video, but then I remember specifically watching, because I had it on tape, the 1991 VMAs, and this just cleaned up, winning video award after award. I remember Stipe had a series of T-shirts that he was taking off and revealing a new political message with each award they won throughout the night. But like you said, yeah, beautiful visually, kind of stunning. Some of the still shots that are left in there as the director Tarsem leaves just these almost just portraits of the characters in it, of these angels, and some that are fallen and being, living among men, and then the performance shots of the band, which are artistically done, whether it's Peter Buck playing the mandolin, Michael Stipe singing very passionately. Color palettes beautiful, and that scene, I remember a distinct shot of a jar of milk like falling off and crashing. Probably one of the first videos, at my age that I could recognize as, there's something artistic, there's some artistic meaning in here, and not just like a fun video or performance. One of the first ones that I really noticed in that way, and could think that I was appreciating something more highbrow. So I'll always have good memories of it for that as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. I definitely 100% agree. All right, why don't you go ahead and give us the next entry on your Mount Rushmore of 90s videos?
Yeah, so that's kind of highbrow. One of the simplest ways you can definitely appeal to me in a video or in a movie or anyway is using puppets, using Muppets, using animation, and that's why I went with a late 90s entry of Supergrass's Pumping Out Your Stereo. Pretty much a one-hit wonder, I would say, for the U.S., but a really catchy song, and it's just performance of the band. Instead, their limbs have been replaced by these overly long, puppet limbs, for lack of a better definition. We see them playing their instruments like right in time with the music. It's a fun performance throughout. A lot of energy, even though it's puppet limbs performing. Either it's giant feet tapping, these long legs and arms sitting in a tiny drum set, but still keeping time with the music. I love the kind of attitude and tone that is still captured by the movements of the puppet movements, which is really impressive to me. Like each individual from the band seems to have a distinct personality, and the movements themselves capture that personality. Just when you think it's going to be pretty standard, or I guess as standard as a puppet video can be, and we've got one trick, it's just going to be, okay, they've got long limbs, that's all we're seeing. It cuts to a puppet guitar that's actually singing along with the song as well. So it keeps going, it keeps fun throughout, it doesn't overstay its welcome, and it's just a real fun clip for me. So Supergrass, Pumping Out Your Stereo. If you haven't seen it, check it out. The song will be stuck in your head too, I promise.
Yeah, this is one I think I haven't had a chance. I've never even heard of before until you mentioned it. So definitely wanted to check out. I know our friend Andy Atherton may want to pass on this one, given his dislike of puppets with human hands. If you obviously listen to him on the Muppet podcast, he constantly refers to that. So might be a very interesting video to check out. It kind of I'm just looking at it. Obviously, would probably get vibes of the old of Land of Confusion by Genesis from back in the 80s. So. Yeah, that's definitely one I'll have to check out here and see how it is. So good choice there. All right, well, I'm going to go ahead and give my next entry on my Mount Rushmore, and we are kind of talking now, kind of going to the middle of the decade where the rock, there was a brief time where a lot of people thought that that rock was dead in the 90s because during the mid 90s we kind of saw this rise in pop, specifically with boy bands. And one of the boy bands at the front of that was, of course, the Backstreet Boys. And they had put out a couple of big videos at the time. But I think when you think of just one of the most, again, unique, interesting, and just, insane videos you ever seen, you have to be talking about Everybody Backstreet's Back. And since for the simple fact that the majority of the video has the five guys in these like Halloween like costumes. You got one's a werewolf, one is a mummy, one's like Phantom of the Opera with the mask, one's like Two-Face with the half his face normal, half all like disheveled, and then one is a vampire. Just such a very interesting diverse group of just all this imagery, and then obviously all the the big dance sequence in the middle, just really just insane for that time. And it really kind of stood out at that time because it seemed like the videos that these boy bands were putting out just seemed all kind of similar and generic. So to kind of step outside the box with that type of a video, I think really gave them a little bit of extra juice and kind of put them on the pedestal as like one of the top boy bands at that time. Even though that's may not be everybody's cup of tea, it definitely they definitely thrived during that time period. So definitely big kudos to them. John, do you have anything to include about Everybody Backstreet's Back?
Yeah, you said there, Steve, that a lot of those performances in these videos were kind of the same. I think it got to the point where we were parodying them, in Blink parodied them in their own videos of, everybody's looks very similar. Some frosted hair, some flowing white shirts and pants. Everybody's going to be performing, looking with soft looks into the camera. And the Backstreet Boys kind of threw that out the window here and challenged it by dressing themselves up, kind of uglifying themselves into these monster costumes and having fun with it. Throwbacks to Thriller with a monster performance and dancing with a group of other monsters. Almost feels like a show that could appear at like Universal Studios theme park that we would see with the monsters dancing together. Kind of a shout out to those. But a banger of a track to support it. That this is a great video. Good choice. And probably when I think of Backstreet Boys videos, I'd rather watch this than some of the ones that people prefer. Like, I want it that way. Give me this. Give me Backstreet's back, and these guys just having a good time as monsters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely another one of those earworms where once you hear it, it gets stuck in your head for the rest of the day. So definitely I thought worthy of reckoning here. So all right, why don't you go ahead and give us the next entry on your Mount Rushmore of 90s videos?
Sure. So in the early 2000s, they started releasing DVD collections of music videos from specific directors. I had the one from Michel Gondry, who we talked about earlier with Foo Fighters Everlong. Another one that's an outstanding collection. You can watch it start to finish and not have a bad one is Spike Jonze. And one of his real videos that announced his superiority in this field of directing music videos was the Beastie Boys' Sabotage. Sabotage, you might remember, is this. It plays like an opening credit sequence to a gritty cop show from the 70s. And it looks and feels exactly like that. I think you're playing through the video at first, and you've got the chase scene going on through the opening verse, and then the way that title kind of zooms up to the front of the screen, Sabotage, introducing it. It looks exactly like an opening to the A-Team, like an opening to the Fall Guy, to an opening to Chips, right? The way the title zooms in, the costumes throughout it are just authentic. The makeup even is fine with the 70s hair and mustaches, where the cops are the Beastie Boys as cops are chuckling with each other, buddy, but then in the pursuit of a chase that always looks a little clunky, not like real fine special effects. Throwback again to those kind of A-Team special effects of cars just crashing into things, but no big explosions. Sabotage is a lot of fun. I think a lot of people came away from this wanting to watch the show. Like, let's watch some full episodes of this show. It would be great. But Spike Jonze has a blast with it. Obviously, was a fan of these types of TV shows. The Beastie Boys, clearly fans of this type of TV show and wanted to kind of play out those roles themselves. And they do a perfect job of it. So, yeah, that's my pick, is Sabotage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely a great choice there. And I think the Beastie Boys kind of similar to REM, where they had a couple, pretty big hits in the 80s, Brass Monkey, You Gotta Fight for Your Rights, No Sleep Till Brooklyn. So I'm sure a lot of people probably were wondering if they could, hit another home run with a big hit in the 90s. And this is definitely one of the ones that did that. Like I said, kind of paying homage to those classic 70s crime drama shows, and just the insane music and inside of it, and it was very different and intense for that time. And I know it's funny because I'm reading up on it in the 2018 Beastie Boys book. Amy Poehler had reviewed the video and said that without the video, you wouldn't see things like Anchorman or Adult Swim or Wes Anderson, that sort of thing. So I think you got to give a lot of credit to the Beastie Boys and to Spike Jonze for kind of their the influence they brought on with this video, and kind of paying homage to those classic 70s TV shows. So yeah, kudos to the Beastie Boys, and kudos to Jonze for that. So great choice there, John. Great choice. So I'm going to go ahead and close out my Mount Rushmore here with my last video. And as we were kind of talking about during the break, the 90s were a very interesting time frame, because like the start you had the grunge movement and kind of the hip hop and the East Coast West Coast rap battles that you would see, and then as you got closer to the end of the decade, you kind of transitioned into that whole as it was called, not just pop but bubblegum pop. You had, as I said, the boy bands, and Total Request Live was starting to really get hot at that time on MTV, and you also had that time the pop princesses kind of start to make their move into the culture there. You had like your Christina Aguilera's and your Mandy Moore's, but obviously when you think pop princesses, one name comes to mind, and that is of course Britney Spears. And when she came out with Baby One More Time in 1998, it was a game changer. You had her and her, her schoolgirl, Catholic schoolgirl uniform, doing all this seductive, dancing, and then it transitioned to them on the in the parking lot of the school, and then into the basketball court, and it really just kind of really, she exploded onto the scene with this video, and she became really almost overnight a pop culture icon. Just through this song and through this video. She had kind of started to make a name for herself earlier in the decade as part of the Mickey Mouse Club, and now it's just like, all of a sudden, like, here she is, and she never looked back. Obviously her career would have some a lot of ups and downs, probably a lot more downs than ups, but it all started here with this song and with this video, and she was like I said, the poster child for that late 90s, pop era, and going into the 2000s, right when they needed, something to kind of hook in those teens that were looking for, somebody to attach onto. She became that role model that little girls could latch onto. And really just, I think, one of the most influential artists of that time. And, when you talk about great videos of the 90s, Baby One More Time definitely deserves to be up there on that list. John, do you have anything to include about Baby One More Time? John, I think you're on mute.
I sure was.
There you are. Okay.
Yeah, like I said, during the break we talked about, I said, this is not one I always think about because it's so late 90s that I never associated with it, but such an important video at the time. An example of a video that could launch a career. We think about artists kind of, embracing video and trying to utilize it, but this is where a video can help make an artist and then follow that career throughout, by making more and more great videos. It announces her presence right away as, she has just such charisma on camera as this, schoolgirl turned singer in the middle, owns those performance scenes. And, everybody can remember seeing this for a first time and, hearing the song together with it. Britney Spears was off to the races after this. It was a great pick, Steve.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, you have one entry left on your Mount Rushmore, so why don't you go ahead and give it to us?
Yeah, so Britney Spears kind of on one end of the spectrum. I guess we could think Radiohead kind of on the other end if we were doing that, right? As far as artists go. And Radiohead has had a series of great videos. One from the 90s that I really enjoyed was the video for Just. And this is where music videos artists started making them into kind of like short films. Maybe they don't have anything to do with the song, but we're just kind of watching the film and hearing the song as a soundtrack to it. Just kind of fits into that. Feels like it does, at least. The video focuses on, a street scene where people are walking down the sidewalk, and there's a gentleman who's just lying in the middle of the sidewalk. He has people coming up to him all throughout, trying to figure out why he's, just stopped in the middle of the sidewalk, and keep asking, with just tension raising and raising throughout. It's all subtitled, and the song builds to this great crescendo of guitars and, just noise towards the end as they're trying to figure out. And he keeps threatening them this impending sense of doom as he's like, I can't tell you. You guys just need to leave me alone. As the police come, try to ask him. Every other person keeps screaming at him, tell us why you're here. And as he starts to tell them, he mouths it. We don't hear what he says. We cut to the footage of the band looking down, and then we see an overhead shot, and everybody's kind of laid out on the sidewalk, just like this guy. We're not sure what happened. It's never been answered by the directors, by the writers of what actually is going on here. So a video with a sense of mystery, and everybody kind of make up your own what happened in Just. It's fun to me for that reason, and has a great song to go along with it. really curious piece all around. And so, yeah, this was, as far as Radiohead videos go, one of their best and deserving of a slot on my Mount Rushmore for the 90s.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's an interesting pick there. Again, not video I've seen a ton, probably seen maybe seen like once in passing, but I mean, yeah, Radiohead really kind of was a defining band of that mid 90s, kind of as the grunge era was almost kind of coming to an end, and the like I said, all the pop bands coming towards the end of the decade, kind of nestled in that little middle. You had bands like Radiohead really making their mark, and yeah, I mean, it's like sometimes even the simplest videos can still be great, and this is one I think definitely belongs up there as one of those kinds of videos. So good pick there to close things out.
Thanks, Steve.
Mm-hmm. All right, so like I said, that closes both our main list off. But now let's talk about some honorable mentions. So I'm going to start off with one I have. We talked a lot about Madonna in the 80s, how she really was the queen of that era. But even in the 90s, she kept on rocking. And when you think one of her big hits in the 90s, you think of Vogue, and just again, kind of an interesting, video with just like this whole all black and white, and just kind of playing homage to the golden age of Hollywood, and just her, doing, it was such a simple dance move, just the hands, by the face, but it got over during that time frame, and kind of gave her a little bit of a I don't want to say revival, because she wasn't like fading or anything as the 80s ended, but gave her a little extra boost as she went into the 90s, as she kind of started getting some more, kind of interesting songs and videos. And I mean, you can obviously, when you talk about one of her big 90s videos, obviously Justify My Love is another big, kind of big controversial one, kind of similar to like a prayer in the 80s. But I thought that, when you think her, Madonna in the 90s, you just think Vogue and that dance move. So, do you have anything to include about Vogue?
Vogue's an outstanding choice, outstanding video, and then built on even more when in her performance of it. Similar to pointing out the performance of Like a Virgin, her performance of Vogue at the 91 awards, and they're all in kind of Victorian garb performing. Yeah, this is the height of Madonna and her two side dancers performances, era of her career, and it's captured right here perfectly. The model-like shoots of her with just a close-up singing the song as the cameras are flashing really gives it a sense of high fashion, of high art, and perfect accompaniment to a song of about fashion and about being of the moment. Yeah, good one for Madonna, and good for Madonna to get some mention in the 90s.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. All right, why don't you go ahead and give us one of your honorable mentions?
Hey, another lovely young woman doing music videos. Fiona Apple was not too big a fan of doing music videos at first, but has a terrific sense of fashion, almost model-like. And Mark Romanek, the director, worked with her in making the video for Criminal, which has just a beautiful scene, sense of color and palette, and connects us with the artist in really interesting ways. It's also a really sexy video, as we just have Fiona Apple and a series of scantily clad people lying around a house as she performs the song, and it kind of feels like this lost era. I think about like Boogie Nights coming out around the same time, and this feels akin to that, in this like partied out like late 70s homage here, and just a beautifully shot, and the fashion in it wonderful for what it is. So Criminal from Fiona Apple, one of my choices.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very risque kind of video at that time. It's just her like all these different just all this different attire, and just the tone of her voice as she's singing the song, and it's just really just makes you feel for her at that time. And obviously she did cause some stir at the 97 VMAs, when she basically went out and said the world's BS, don't model yourself after all of us, be who you are. Yeah, just definitely kind of interesting, that she had, I don't want to call her a, one hit wonder, because she did have a couple of other hits after this, but it does feel like, she could have been a lot more following this. So it is kind of unfortunate that she never kind of hit the heights I think many probably thought she would. But obviously you think of, Criminals, definitely one of those videos from the 90s that you always remember. And she's one of those artists that you always remember. So definitely a good pick there. And speaking of controversy and artists that maybe could have been more than they ended up being, we go back to the early part of the 90s. And of course, I'm talking about Sinead O'Connor and Nothing Compares to You. Again, very interesting video. It's basically most of it's just her, a close up of her face as she sings the song, and as she's starts crying at some point, and it's again very simple, but very powerful, very moving. The song was a big hit throughout the for that that time, and again it seemed someone that probably should have been a lot more than she was, but had she not you almost think, had she not taken the stance she did on SNL when she tore that picture of the Pope in half, maybe things would have been better for her. But, I think when you talk that early era, the early 90s, in those music videos, easily Nothing Compares to You stands out as one of the best of that time frame. Do you agree with me, John?
Absolutely. Just a beautiful song, a beautiful video, so simple, just the solo performance, and it's gutting to watch because it's so raw with the emotion in the performance. This isn't, a fake performance, fake tears or anything. There's real genuineness to everything here, and it's almost like it's just so revealing. It's uncomfortable in that way, but you gotta respect it. And great, honest performance from Sinead O'Connor. It's a shame we didn't get even more from such a talented artist.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. All right, why don't you go ahead and give us another one of your honorable mentions?
Yeah, hey, back to Spike Jonze. One of my favorite pieces of his work is the video for Fatboy Slim's Praise You. This is the one that kind of has a guerrilla feel to it, as he's taken his cameras and shoots it almost like a public access show of a performance of a local dance troupe. I think they list them from Torrance, maybe, performing outside a movie theater. And there's just some fun moves all around. It's obviously like this kind of new agey performance. It's designed to kind of make the people waiting in line to go see the movies feel uncomfortable as they see these kind of wacky people dancing around, kind of hippie-ish, and really just fun, and a fun watch all around. Kind of sets the tone for, and is an inspiration for things that we would do with the shock comedy of the guerrilla style comedy. If you think of the Borats or some of the Jackass stuff that we've seen, which Spike Jonze obviously was tied to at times, this is kind of an inspiration that of what is possible in that format, and he used it to make a music video. So there you go.
Yeah, I remember this. This video was everywhere on MTV. Like, you could not go one day watching without seeing this video. And again, it just seems like such a simplistic. You just got these people just dancing to this song, and it just seems so random and so bizarre. But it worked, and they did really well. And considering that it only cost them $800 to produce, they definitely made the most of their they definitely got their money's worth. And it's funny.
Is that right? $800? That's great. Wow.
Yeah, that's what I mean, granted, I'm going off Wikipedia, so I mean, take it with a grain of salt. But I mean, you look at the video, it definitely seems like it's doesn't seem like it was that expensive to produce. But it's funny when you think of Fatboy Slim music videos. You think of this one, and then obviously the next decade, the 2000s, you think of Weapon of Choice and Christopher Walken just doing his dancing all over all across the hotel lobby. So, but yeah, this was definitely a great choice. I actually had it as one of my honorable mentions as well, just because, like I said, 1999 MTV. You watch every day, and you seem like you saw this video at least once. So definitely great choice there. For in terms of a great great videos for the 90s. Another honorable mention that I had, another very influential song for the 90s, and a group that really kind of took off with this one. That's, of course, the band TLC and the song Waterfalls. Obviously, interesting interesting video where you got these two stories going on about this teen who is selling drugs, as his mother's trying to get them to stop, and then you also have, and then on the other side you got this woman who is constantly, who is not who had unprotected sex and ended up contracting AIDS, and then you got that interspliced with TLC performing and like basically in front of a real waterfall in the ocean. And just again, one of those really memorable songs that really hits home, and it really put them on the map in that time frame. Obviously, they've had a lot of some other great videos. You think of No Scrubs at the end of the decade, and then even in the 2000s with some of their other stuff. And yet again, you think of what could have been had Lisa Left Eye Lopez not had her life tragically cut short like it did. But really, when you think about the 90s and some of those influential artists, TLC definitely ranks up there, and Waterfalls is definitely one that deserves a mention of being one of those great videos of the 90s. Do you agree, John, on that?
Yeah, it's not on my list, but I can definitely see the importance of it, and it I think it won a couple of awards, and good narrative throughout it. I can always appreciate that of telling the story of the two characters, as you mentioned, along with the performance of the band, of the group. Waterfalls is definitely a solid choice. Good one.
All right. I think you've got one more honorable mention on your list, so why don't you let us know what it is?
Yeah, another honorable mention, another one from Spike Jonze here again, is Wax's California. I'm a sucker again for single take videos. Another thing that I always like, and for weird stunts, and this one has both. As it's just a single shot, it's in slow motion, and it's of a man who's on fire running down the street. So think about your Inferno matches from WWE, but only amplified, as it's his whole body on fire as he's running, as we learn at the end, trying to catch the bus, which he does. It goes along with the song. I don't think we ever heard anything from Wax as a band other than this, so I only know them as a result from this wonderful video, and it's kind of plays into the song of everybody going around their normal day, not even paying attention to this man fully on fire running down the street, eventually hopping onto the bus that he's trying to catch. So if you haven't checked it out, check it out. It's a very short clip, but really fun use of this special effect and a single take for a music video.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'll definitely have to take a look into it, because I don't think I've ever heard of this group until you mentioned it here. So one of those kind of bands you almost kind of, I don't say forgot about, but it's almost like one of those like you don't think about at first, but then when you hear the name, you're like, oh yeah, I remember them. So yeah, interesting choice there. All right, I've got two more here. I'll just kind of put them both here at the same time. So another artist that really hit it big in the 90s, of course, was Alanis Morissette. And I was thinking about what video, because she had a couple of good videos. Obviously, you think about Jagged Little Pill and You Oughta Know. Obviously, Thank You at the end of the decade. But one I think is kind of interesting, and just the way it was shot, was Ironic, which is basically her driving this car. And she's it's basically just her four different ways. There's like four different versions of her in this car as they're singing the song, and just kind of the intersplicing back and forth between these four different basically like personalities of her, I thought was always very unique. Something you didn't see a lot of back then. Just such kind of like I said, very interesting for that time frame, and really, I think, really expressed her for the artist that she was. And I think again, because Ironic is a pretty good song, and definitely one of those kind of memorable videos that you think of back then. And then one last one I have from another kind of one-hit wonder of the 90s. We haven't talked a lot about those the 90s one-hit wonders. There were a bunch, but one of the big ones was, of course, the band was Blind Melon and their song No Rain. And if you're not sure what I'm talking about, I have two words for you: B-girl. That's pretty much all you need. That's pretty much all you need to know about the video. It's just this young girl dressed up like a bee with these big glasses, and it's basically just her tap dancing and just kind of going through this whole video with the band performing. So just another like really unique song and a unique video for that early 90s time frame. So I thought that both of them that deserved some recognition as well. So John, do you have anything to include about Ironic or No Rain?
Yeah, I love both of these videos. Steve, which was your favorite Alanis from the Ironic video? Is it the one with the braids, the one driving, or did you have a particular Alanis? I remember thinking about that at the time. But a really fun video. People can get on the fact that their misuse of the word irony all they want, but the fact is that this is just an interesting take, kind of showing off different personality traits in each individual part. Something that lives on today. I think we see it in like Buick commercials where somebody's driving with three of her other selves and they all like specific parts about the car. So way to go, Alanis, influencing motor vehicle commercials to this day. And then, yeah, B-girl. There's only two words, like you said, that can describe it. And I think this album had come out well before the video, and I would go to the store and see it on the shelf. I was like, what band is this with this person in a bee costume? Then the video came out, and I was like, oh, yeah, I've seen that CD in stores. And sure enough, the song was great, too. And it was, everybody's introduction to Blind Melon. Another artist who's no longer with us, Shannon Hoon, but a great performer. Also featured in the Don't Cry video as a backup vocalist, but somebody lost too soon, and I'm glad that he was able to have some success and his band was able to have some success as a result of, even if it was just because of B-girl. More people know of Blind Melon and their musicianship as a result.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. All right, well, that will conclude both of our lists. We touched on a lot of great music videos from both the 80s and the 90s. Lots of great, just amazing stuff. And speaking of music videos, that kind of leads us into here as we get to our plugs here. So, John, do you have anything that you want to plug, and also where people can find you on social media?
Sure. Social media wise, you can find me just if you see my name on Facebook and want to find me, I'm there. I'm at Coach K56 on Twitter. I don't think I've tweeted anything in like a decade maybe. So really, really, really heavy follow there. But on the Place to Be Nation and the North South Connection Facebook group, I'm active in that, in discussions, and specifically in our music video jukebox of the day selections that we're doing now. Check out each day of the week. We have a new music video being reviewed and discussed by one of the Place to Be Nation personalities. Check out and you can hear me go into deeper depths on Everlong. And coming up, I have a review of Karma Police by Radiohead, another Radiohead favorite. So we'll be looking at videos all around. Other than that, you can catch me popping up on Mount Rushmore's as a panelist or as a panelist on the Now 2-0 reviews. Really just trying to become a professional panelist of sorts, I guess, Steve. So look for me wherever you can on Place to Be Nation.
Yeah, we'll just keep this in mind. The longer you become a panelist, eventually you move into the host role at some point. So I learned that by being a panelist here. So just something to keep in the back of your head. But usually you can find me here on the Pop Experience, not only with this show, but with another show that I host. That's Pop Goes to Classics with Andy and Miranda. We are going through all the Disney animated films. We are knee deep into the Disney Renaissance. The last one we talked was Aladdin, and the next one, of course, will be The Lion King, as we hit kind of the apex of the Renaissance before we hit the back end But those films I'm definitely looking forward to getting back into, because I think some of them are probably some of the most underrated films that they've done. Obviously, as John mentioned, the Jukebox Song of the Day, which I also am a part of. I did a read through of watched Wanted Dead or Alive by Bon Jovi, one of my all-time favorite bands. Obviously, and also that was on the heels of the recent passing of the original bass player Alec John Such. So check that out. And also, I've got speaking of Smells Like Teen Spirit, I actually watched that video and talked about it. So that's going to be coming up here soon. You can also now find me over on the PTBN Wrestling feed. I have now become kind of the new co-host of Extreme Resurrection along with James Grunberg, where we are going through the ECW, WWE's version from when it started in 2006. Me and James looked at the 2 episodes following December to Dismember as we are about to finish up 2006 and head into 2007. So lots of interesting stuff coming for that brand right there. And I also made a couple appearances over on the North-South Connection podcast feed. I joined Jacob Williams on the Ruthlessly Aggressive podcast as we talked the Raw and SmackDown after the 03 Royal Rumble. 2 pretty big episodes. You got them teasing the return of Steve Austin over on Raw, and on SmackDown we got the return of Hulk Hogan. So lots of big stuff going on here as we kick off the road to WrestleMania 19. And I also made my debut on the Jenny position finally. That was long waited in the works here as I joined Jennifer Smith for an episode of You Heard About Pluto, where we watched 2 episodes of South Park on the Comedy Central channel, 2 classic episodes. So that was a lot of fun. Be sure to check that out. And be sure to check out everything on the North-South Connection feed, which houses the Jenny position, the PTBN Wrestling feed, and here on the PTBN Pop Experience. You can usually find me over on the PTBN Facebook page. Lots of great stuff going on over there. And also be sure to check out PlaceToBeNation.com. If you're looking to get involved either as a writer or something else, give us a shout. We'll always we'll take a look at what you got and see if you're a good fit here. So obviously lots of good stuff going on there and all across the nation. So lots of great stuff there. So again, I want to thank John for joining me here. We had a lot of great fun here, a lot of good discussion, and we will see you for another go around. So for Jon Keselica, I am Steve Riddle. This has been Making Mount Rushmore here on the PTBN Pop Experience, and we will see you next time.